Hello, welcome back to the other side of the cell. This is Michael Jackson coming at you again. The question or the subject matter of this video is going to be inmate self-mutilation, because I've gotten a lot of questions and requests about what happens when an inmate does something to themselves. I thought I'd give you two stories of some of the things I experienced and how it was handled. So the first story I want to talk about happened back in the early 2000s, probably 2001, maybe something like that. And there was two particular inmates that were from the southern part of the state where I worked, and they were from rural communities where there was a lot of inbreeding and stuff like that. So the guys, the inmates, were low functioning and believed to have been a product of, long story short, one of them's name was Willard and the other one's name was, I'm thinking Robert and Willard. And they were probably in their 30s, early 30s. And they were in for petty larceny, stealing four-wheelers, and, crimes like that, grand theft. So the odd thing about these two is they always ran together, always traveled together, always were together as far as going to chow, going to the yard for recreation, things like that. But the peculiar thing about it was these two guys were low functioning, but yet they were able to communicate pretty well. So one day they were going out to the rec yard. The history of these guys is they kept doing the same type of mutilation to themselves over and over and over again, and I'll get to that. But on this particular day, they went to the center yard, which is a recreation yard with, in the center of the yard is weight equipment, weight benches, dumbbells, all that kind of stuff. And then the outer portion of that yard is a circle, a cement circle with like a track where they walk around. So yard calls usually are for 1 hour. So do yard calls, they let them out, they do their yard time, and then the door to the yards open up, and then they come in single file. On this particular day, the oldest one, Willard, came in first, and as the officers are standing at the doorway, where the officers, a couple officers and myself or whoever, we're just standing around watching and talking, and Willard came off the yard. Well, when he comes off the yard, we noticed that with inmates, they usually wear either gray sweatpants and like a white t-shirt or something, or their standard issue is khaki pants with white t-shirts. So this particular day, Willard, who was about 6 foot tall, maybe 180, he was coming off the yard, and we noticed that there was a large blood spot right around the zipper area of his pants. So we noticed that, and we pull him off to the side and say, "Hey, Will, what's up? What's going on with you today? You got blood on your pants. What's going on?" And he had a speech impediment, so it was hard to understand him unless you were around him and knew him. And basically he would say, "There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Leave me alone." So we're like, "Yes, there is something wrong with you. You have blood on your pants." So immediately we take him off to the side, and then we take him to a secure area, and you make them strip out. Because when you deal with inmates anybody's dealt with corrections, anybody's been in prison knows that stripping out is just part of being in prison. If you're a staff person or you're inmate, you're used to seeing everybody's privates all the time because you're stripping it out. Inmates say we're used to lifting our nuts in our bags all the time and squatting and coughing. That's the process. So the process is you strip them out, they turn around with their hands up, they lift their privates up, and then they turn around, squat, and cough. So if they have anything stuffed up inside them or in their private areas, when they turn around, squat, and cough, it dislodges it and it comes out. But in this case, we wasn't worried about contraband. We was worried about his safety. So when we're stripping him out, we're wanting to know where the blood's coming from. So as this process takes place, we're stripping him out and he turns around and we notice there's blood coming out of the end of his penis. So we're thinking, what's going on here? What did he do? Or did he get kicked, or did whatever happen? So when we're looking, we can see what looks like a little piece of metal or something at the end of his penis. So we're going, what did you do? What is that? And he said, it's a paper clip. And we're like, what? So during the process of looking and seeing this whole situation, we're thinking, what in the world is this guy doing? So in the process of figuring it out, we take him to medical. They get him up to medical and they examine him. The doctor takes a look at him and they realize that he had somehow gotten hold of a paper clip. And he took the paper clip and opened it up so that it was like a hook. And he had shoved it in his penis and then jerked it to where it caught. And for whatever reason, which can't be explained because he couldn't tell us why he did it, it was lodged in him and they had to life flight him to the medical center it's about an hour away from the prison to have it surgically removed. Sometimes inmates have psychological problems that will make them do all kinds of craziness. And the thing about Willard and his brother is they did that more than once. This was not like a one-time thing. This was a repeated behavior. Him and his brother both did this numerous times. So it came to a point where they had to ship them to a higher level facility that had a psych hospital and put those guys in a mental ward. Basically, it's a psych ward for people that you just can't house in a regular prison because they just keep doing different mutilations, and the psychologist or the psych people have to put them on some very intense medication to just basically they make them incapacitated so they can't do those things to themselves. So that is one example of some self-mutilation that we encountered in my facility. Now, second one, and this one is kind of, you just don't understand this and you don't believe it unless you work in a correctional facility. But the next one is, there was a group of guys that were the inmates that were on a dorm, and they got the crazy idea to do some self-mutilation to themselves for sexual purposes. So in the prisons, you have, in our facility, the inmates play cards, they play board games and stuff like that to kind of pass the time. So a group of inmates got the bright idea while they was playing dominoes one day, that they were going to make some dermals or whatever. And what a dermal is you can make them out of anything, but it's kind of like something that you put under your skin to make kind of an art form or something. But these guys decided they was going to put dermals in the foreskin of their penises, or the heads of their penises, so that they could enhance their sexual activities. So these fools got together and they took dominoes and they cut the dominoes into diamonds about that big. So what they would do is, after they made all these little diamonds, one guy would be the so-called surgeon. The other guys will be the, I don't know, patients or whatever you want to call them. So these guys went into the shower, there's 5 of them, and they took ice, numbed their penises, and they took a razor blade and cut under the heads of their penises, and they put the dermals underneath so that they would be raised. And then they took some makeshift glue and glued the incision up. So what they did was they was trying to enhance their sexual prowess or whatever, and put these dermals all along their penis and their shaft. And the way we found out about it was the inmates that were on that unit dropped a snitch note, and said, you need to check these 5 guys because they done something that is pretty nasty, pretty horrible. So we got the information, we pulled the guys off to the side and asked them, is anything going on or whatever? Of course, they denied it, said nothing was going on. We took them individually into the shower, private. We said, strip out, stripped out. As soon as they stripped out, they had blood all over their underwear and they had gotten infected. So one of the guys was infected so bad that he had to have some surgery to have it removed, and he almost lost his private area because he got infected. Because in institutions like prisons and stuff like that, staph infection runs rampant, and he had gotten staph on the head of his privates, on the end of his penis, and he almost lost his whole manhood there. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times inmates get attacked and they get fights and they do all this stuff and they get hurt, but a lot of times they do these things to themselves and they get a self-inflicted mutilation. And they do this because I think sometimes they just get so bored that they want something to get them excited, get them just experiment on, and because you just really don't have any words to describe the things that these guys do. And normal people, you tell people these stories and they say, you're full of shit. There's no way that these people are doing this. But I'm telling you this, inmates do a lot of weird things, and they do a lot of things to themselves because the repetition and the boredom of being locked up for years at a time get these guys to do some off-the-wall things. And a lot of times they do it just because some other guy talks them into it. It's not because they really want to do it. It's not because they thought of it. It's because some other dude thought of it and they go along with it and they say, hey, I'll try it. And, you know, during the process of this last incident, I personally interviewed the guys, and my one question, because my question is, for a lot of guys, is what were you thinking? What was the thought process of this one? I mean, because you can do a lot of things, but I don't know of anybody that sits around with their homeboys or whatever and said, hey, I think I'll cut myself up, my private areas up, and stick something in them. I don't know too many people that do that. And talking to those guys, a lot of them guys said, I don't know. I have no idea. Don't know. So the moral of the story is, don't come to prison, because you might end up doing some crazy ass shit to yourself, and you may carry it for the rest of your life. And you really don't want to do that, especially if you're one of these young cats out here who think that going to prison's cool and all these different things, because there's a lot of things that go on in prison that you don't want no part of. Because 3 out of the 5 guys that did that had no intention of doing it. They just went along with it because they were with 3 or 4 of their buddies. They said, let's try it. And they tried it. So, you know, whenever you young guys think about being tough and doing all this craziness, and you want to think about going to prison, well, think about somebody mutilating you for the fun of it. And then think again that maybe that's not a good idea. And I don't want to come to prison, because prison's not fun. And there's a lot of weird people, and they do really messed up shit to each other. So the next time you're out in the street and you're doing something stupid, think about it. I don't want to get mutilated. It's not fun. So think about that. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Keep the comments coming, keep the suggestions coming, and we will continue to do videos and tell stories about things that we have experienced. Me personally, as working in the field, I'll tell you about my experiences in it, and I'll give you my opinions on things, and hopefully we'll continue to bring good content and bring good stories to you that you can share to other people and make your life a little bit better. So until next time, this is Michael Jackson signing off. Have a good day. God bless.